Yo, what's going on, Team Tweedie? I hope you're all super well. Welcome to episode 44 of Hashtag Ask Tweedie, the football show where you guys send in your football-related questions. I do my best to answer them and give as much value as possible back to you guys. Kind of like a thank you for tuning in and, yeah, just answering your comments. I know a lot of people have questions in football, what to do in different situations, how to improve different sorts of things, and some people just want my opinion on things. So like I said, it's kind of like a thank you for tuning in, thank you for subscribing, thank you for commenting. And yeah, we do this every single Tuesday and Thursday. That's what it was in England. Right now in Australia, it's every Friday morning at 5:30 AM and Wednesday at 5:30 AM. That's when it gets uploaded. Work out your time zone, make sure you tune in every week. 3 questions every single show. Remember, you don't have to watch the video of this, you can listen to it in the background while you train, work, do your study, do your homework, do your business, I don't know. The first question is, also remember, if you want to have your question answered, leave it in the comments below. Kicking it off, what do you think about young players, 15, 16, 17 years old, earning lots of money in big clubs? For example, a friend of mine plays for Club Brugge, has a teammate that goes to Inter Milan, and he earns 5,800 euros a month. Just want to know your opinion on that. That comes in from Jean Verhaest. Jean Verhaest, sorry if I said that wrong. 5,800 euros a month. That's like 90,000. That's a good paying job in Australia. Like a really good paying job. That's crazy. What's my opinion on it? I think it's just goes back to the whole thing of football. If you're a good player, you're going to get paid for what you're good at. Now, there's a few things I don't necessarily like about it. There's a few things I really like about it. Let's talk about what I like about it, because we all look at it and go, I wish I was there, and look at the negatives. Now, what I absolutely love about it is it forces these players to learn how to deal with this sort of, not necessarily fame, but the feeling that they've already made it. They've got all the money they need. They're like, what, 15, 16, 17 years old. They're making an absolute truckload. And yeah, it teaches them to learn how to deal with it. So they're learning these different skills and not let that get to their head and focus on the football. You know, it's just great for them, you know. Like I say, if you're a gold brick, people are going to pay the gold brick. They're not just going to let it ride. Now, in saying that, the thing I don't like about it is that it's not available to everyone. In Australia, from 15 to, well, from like a young kid up until 20 years old, no, up until about 18, 19 years old, you have to pay to play every year. And we're talking about $2,000 a year. Maybe it's even 2,500 Australian dollars. That's maybe like 1,500 pounds. I don't know how many euros. Work it out yourselves. But you have to actually pay to play, which it's a bit ridiculous. And I always put this in my head, like, you know, I don't think about it too much because it's just things that aren't real. It just can't happen. But what if I was born in, for example, Inter Milan, and I was in the Inter Milan academy? Would I be on that sort of money? Would I be debuting for Inter Milan right now? And these are things that we just can't answer. And it comes down to, there's a book called Outliers, and I forget what it's called. There's different variables for different people who make it. And one of them is like location, basically. So some people, so we see, for example, what's a good example? The top players in the world. So we're talking Spain, Argentina, Brazil. You know, don't get annoyed if I don't say a country. Let's just have a serious conversation here. But we're talking these top players, Germany, whatever, and they're built in these hotbeds. I think that's what it was called, hotbeds. And it's where lots of players or lots of people, talented people, come together and train and play. So you look at that and you compare it with Australia. Now, the area I live in is very surfy. A lot of people like to go to the beach, like to party. It's just different culture, and with that means none of us got paid. Like I said, we had to pay $2,500, $2,000 to actually play football. So I always like to think, what would have happened if I was in an Inter Milan or I don't know, an Arsenal academy? Because here, like, this is just facts. I was too good for this. I was from like 5 to 10 years old. I was scoring hat-tricks every single week. They'd give out the man of the match. I think I might have told you guys this, I forget. But they'd hand out the man of the match every week, and they'd have to rotate it. But I always knew in my head, that man of the match deserves to be me. At 8 years old, I'm sitting there knowing that that was my man of the match award. So, look, there's different things, and for example, that's what I think about. Sometimes you just have to be fortunate enough to grow up in an area which can pay. So yeah, I don't really think too much of it. I don't think much against it. It is what it is, really. Second question, do you believe in overtraining? What do you feel about a big fish in a small pond situation as a player? I'm not quite sure on that. If you want to send that one in again, Mikey WB, the second question, I don't quite understand it. Keep it up, Sheldon. Love all the content, especially the Ask Tweedies. Hey, that's why I do it for you guys. Do you believe in overtraining? That's what I'm going to touch on. So 110% I believe in overtraining. I think a lot of players look at, well, especially me and other YouTubers, and say, you're not training enough. You're not doing this. And it's because we see what they're doing and we don't see it to the full extent. I've seen Barcelona's training schedule. I think in 1 week they played 2 games and they trained 2 or 3 times, and that means they're training 3 times a week plus 2 games, 5 sessions in a week, or basically 5, well, that's not 5 sessions in a week with the games. Now you look at that and I can guarantee you the club would say, you're not allowed to go and do your own stuff. We need you fit, we need you ready for the game. Maybe they're allowed to do a few free kicks and some gym work, but it's very, I don't know, I feel like a lot of us look at it and go, yeah, top players, they train like 20 times a week. And it's just not true. That if you overtrain, like, I'd like to see you guys train 20 times a week. It's just not possible. You will injure yourself, but more importantly, you'll be fatigued for your weekend's game. And that's where you really need to perform. If you're not performing in your match, you're not putting yourself out there, you're not helping the team. And look, I always talk about helping the team, but if we're looking at our own individual goals, which are also very, very important, if you're not 100% for that match, you're not going to be looked at. So, you know, if you're playing in a league where you should be scoring a lot of goals and you don't score those goals, you're not going to move up the leagues. If you're in a league where you should be scoring a goal a week, or you should be having a clean sheet every week, or you should be winning 50% interceptions, whatever, or you're 50% of your 1v1 opportunities, and you're fatigued, it slows you down, you won't move to the next level. So that's kind of one of the things I'm focusing on a bit, making sure that I'm ready for my matches, and it seems to be helping. Scoring goals, it's what I need to be doing in my comp. I need to be scoring goals. Like, I need that in order to make sure that I'm putting myself out there. If I'm not scoring goals, I'm not putting myself out. Football is a game, and it's like a market where people look, they go, okay, what's he doing in the game? Nothing. Okay, cool, leave. But this player here, who they just left, he could have been training 20 times a week. That means nothing to this scout here, because he couldn't put 3 goals in on the weekend when he should have. So think about that. It's the most important thing if you want to market yourself and move up the leagues. I'm not saying training isn't important. It is very. Last and final question. Do you think individual training completely by yourself can be just as effective as one-on-one training or group training for a teenager? That comes in from Christen G. Also, remember, guys, if you don't want your name said, send the question to me on Instagram if you feel it's a little bit more personal. I don't really go on my Snapchat too much. Now, I think we've touched on this before, so I won't go into too much detail on it. I think individual training is 100% important. You need to be getting out there and doing it. But you also need group training. You need team training so that you can identify what your weaknesses are to then go and train individually. There's no point training individually if you're not doing your team sessions. I love one-on-one training, so if you're talking with a coach, if you can afford to pay a coach, 100% go out and do it. Find a coach that you trust and you think is good, has a good reputation. But in saying that, reputation doesn't mean everything. There's a few coaches who I've seen, I don't think they're the best coaches, but they have thousands of followers. So, like, be careful with that. Make sure you're choosing the right coach. For example, my coach has no followers in the world. I don't even think he has Instagram. He barely goes on Facebook, but he's one of the best coaches I've ever had. So just make sure when I started to do sessions, once my mentor left, I did a couple of sessions with different people, just trial sessions. I didn't like them, so I left them. I went into this more as okay, I'm going to see what you're like, rather than I'm going to learn from this. And that's what you should really do in the first session, rather than going, I want to be the best player ever. So I kind of took a step back and I more analysed what he did rather than trying to improve, especially in the first session. And then if I went on, I would have gone, okay, yeah, let's focus on this. So yeah, you need to be getting out there by yourself. I'd just say, get it all in. Why not? Get the individual training in, get the group training in. If you can afford a one-on-one coach, get that in. If you can bring a friend down to the park, that's great. I think if sometimes there is a time and place where you need to say to your friend, your mentor, I just want to have a one-on-one set. I just want to have a private session just by myself, nobody else. And not only just to develop your skills, but to escape as well. I've spoken about this in the vlogs. I love to go down to Manly Oval at night just for a bit of escapism, escape from everything. Football, like it is just escape from everything. Girls, vlogging, football, and then just go down to the park and just practice, and it just really gets my mind in the right place. Some people like to play video games. I feel like that's just a great way of escapism, just down at the park at night. It just has such a good vibe to it. So that concludes this episode. I hope I helped at least one of you guys. If I did, make sure you leave a like down below. Subscribe if you're around here. Join the hashtag AskTweedie family. And I'll see you guys in tomorrow's video. Bye.